coroner has called for a change in the law to ensure vulnerable people living in private rented accommodation have working smoke detectors. Penny Schofield made the comments after the deaths of 3 elderly people in West Sussex in 2 years. In September 2010, a 64-year-old woman died after a fire at her home in Penstone Park, Lancing. Her smoke alarm had no battery. In March this year, a 65-year-old man died in Gratwick Road in Worthing. Again, there was no working smoke detector. Later that month, there was a similar incident in Chelsea in which an 87-year-old man died. The coroner said tougher measures are needed to ensure detectors were wired to the mains. However, private landlords and the government said they had concerns over the costs of such a move. Roisin Gawson is in Chelsea for us tonight. Roisin.
Yes, Sally, 3 deaths, 3 letters calling for a change in the laws governing smoke detectors. The most recent was penned following the death of 87-year-old Trevor Barwick. He lived in the ground floor flat of the building here behind me, and he died at the scene. Firefighters that I spoke to this morning, or one of the first on the scene, they said they had one lasting memory from that particular day. They entered the flat, they saw the smoke detector. It was hanging from the ceiling, and its batteries were nowhere to be seen. Penny Schofield has presided over 3 inquests which she says could have been avoided. All involved vulnerable people in a place where they should have been safe, their home.
In at least 2 of the 3 cases, it's quite clear that the individuals were trying to escape the fire at the time the fire had taken hold, but it was just too late. There's great public awareness around smoke detectors, but it's not filtering through to those who really need this protection. And therefore I feel that that responsibility should be taken off the individual and put with the person who is renting the property out.
65-year-old Peter Lester died in this blaze at his home in Worthing. He's one of 3 pensioners to lose their lives in house fires in West Sussex over an 18-month period to March this year. Each lived in a rented property. None of them had working smoke detectors. Now pressure is mounting on the government to tighten the laws and give tenants a fighting chance of escaping before it's too late.
Certainly we have a moral obligation to go along and save people. Certainly from a landlord's point of view, we would like to think they have a moral obligation to look after their tenants, and it's just one small thing that they could put in is smoke alarms. And as I say, we would support any legislation that would assist that in happening.
Firefighters will come and carry out free home safety checks and make vulnerable people a priority. But this coroner wants landlords to be accountable by law, in essence spending a few pounds to potentially save a life.
I see the families at the inquest devastated by the loss of a relative. It's heartbreaking for them to live with the fact that just for a small cost of a wired-in smoke detector, that death could have been prevented.
Well, the Department for Communities and Local Government was unable to put anybody up for interview today, but in a statement they told us that too many laws and regulations would simply drive up the costs for tenants and that it was important to maintain a balance. The Communities Minister, Andrew Stunnell, went on to say that building regulations now stipulate that all new dwellings have to have a smoke detector hardwired in, and that, combined with other safety measures, had led to a drop in the number of accidental fire-related deaths. He said they'd halved in the period of 20 years.
So, Roisin, what's the view of private landlords about this possible change in the law?
Well, they don't want laws brought in that state that all smoke detectors have to be hardwired in. They say there's plenty of other options, including putting long-life batteries into smoke detectors, batteries which last up to 10 years.
A 10-year one is simply a stick-on device. It's very quick to fit, it's very cheap to fit, anybody can fit it. Whereas a wired-in one requires an electrician, it requires an electrical certificate once the works have been completed because it's a new installation. So there's much more involved in that. So certainly as an interim or even a permanent solution would be a 10-year battery life detector that's checked on a reasonably regular basis to make sure it's still in situ and still serviceable.
Well, that's still not the favoured option for the West Sussex coroner. She says no matter how long batteries last, they can still be taken out. And this hardwiring law would reduce significantly the chances of that happening. Sally.
Roisin, thanks ever so much.